All right, we're live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we're going to talk about some of the biggest opportunities in crypto right now. We're going to look at a lot of other news updates that have happened in the space, take a look at the cryptocurrency markets, answer some of your questions, and a lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Last but not least, nothing I'm saying in this video is designed to be financial advice, and there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. You just ignore them. Like, I'll never give you my phone number or ask you to invest with me. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Culture Highs, Automatic Beats, David, THX Like This, Mark, Michael, Jay, Sarvesh, Nathan, Emin, or I hope I'm saying that right. So welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this first item of discussion here. Let's talk about some of the biggest opportunities in crypto right now. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I saw this tweet thread pop up, I believe it's yesterday, it's a couple days ago now. But I thought it was really interesting and wanted to share it with you all because I think it echoes a lot of what I've been saying on this channel, on these live streams about, what's happened in crypto recently, what's the opportunity like in this space, and where's it headed over the next, couple months or even years, okay? So I pulled this tweet there from Chris Dixon here. I'll just drop a link to it in the chat. So if you want to browse the thread yourself and see the full source, you can check that out. So there it is in the chat. But anyways, he's talking about blockchains being the new app stores, okay? So he's saying if you were ambitious, risk-seeking founder in the mobile golden age, circa 2009, 2012, so basically like when app stores just started becoming a thing, you built a new mobile app, all right? That was when Uber, WhatsApp, Instagram, Venmo, Snapchat, and many other top apps were built. So mobile has since moved up the technology adoption S-curve. Great mobile apps will still be built, but the low-hanging fruit has been picked, right? The computing frontier of this decade is building apps on programmable blockchains like Ethereum. So blockchains are virtual computers that run on top of networks like physical computers. We all know how blockchains work, or most of us do who are watching this channel. We say blockchains are programmable, they're highly expressive. Okay, we get all that part. But here's the important part. So the best ideas tend to come from the fringes. All right, so let's continue on with this thread here. We saw it start to play out with DeFi summer last year. Okay, that's when basically the killer apps started to come out, like Uniswap, Aave, Compound Maker, a lot of the dApps that I've talked about on this channel. So basically, DeFi shows what's possible with financial services. And then next we have NFTs, all right? So NFTs in gaming are the next big wave of blockchain apps to break out. NBA Top Shots, CryptoPunks, Axie Infinities, all right? You can see the growth of OpenSea sales. We're actually going to check on that here in a minute. Absolutely explode. So we've had DeFi, we've had NFTs. And he's saying some of the top NFTs seem frivolous and toy-like, but NFTs are important because they offer radically better economics to creators and developers versus existing Web 2 platforms, okay? So here's the real question, all right? We've seen DeFi, we've seen NFTs. What's going to be the next wave of killer blockchain applications, all right? So he's saying here, computing waves are hard to predict, all right? They really are, but that doesn't mean we can't try to figure out where this is all headed. So here's some interesting emerging categories that he thinks are some of the biggest potential opportunities here. So DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, basically this is where we have, ways that you can coordinate with others on a blockchain powered by smart contracts to manage funds, actually manage organizations. Social tokens, I've made videos about that recently. So social tokens are ways for creators to make money online. They remove rent-seeking intermediaries and enable the development of many economies that grow along with the fan base, okay? So blockchain-based social networks, so I made a video about that recently as well. So Web3-based social media. With strong commitments to users and developers, they can build on a solid ground without worrying about changing APIs and economics. So basically, a big benefit of Web3 social networks are where, when you become a part of the community, you help run the application, then you can actually participate in the ownership of the application. And that's really different from, Web 2.0 world where basically you're the community and then you have somebody who owns the platform and they're just, getting value from you. So crypto-enabled 3D worlds like Metaverse, We talked about that some on this channel recently too. So that's where I see a lot of the internet going over time anyway, is basically sort of blurring the lines between the physical world and the internet. Basically a three-dimensional internet, an embodied internet. We, of course, have made videos about that recently as well. Facebook talking about, changing their strategy and becoming an internet company or a social media company to a metaverse company. So these are all trends that are being validated by really big players in the space. So basically, these are some ideas, but entrepreneurs are better at building the future than people like me are at predicting it. It's very likely that the best ideas either haven't been conceived or seem strange to us today. So if you work in crypto or are used to outsiders looking at you funny or thinking what you're doing is silly or a scam, or so you are used to that, we don't often have names for what people are working on. It's too new, right? So this is what working at the start of the S-curve feels like. Programmable blockchains are the computing frontier, as PCs were in the 80s, internet in the 90s, and mobile of the last decade. We look back on today's classic moments of computing, what it was like to be there. But you're here. That's the whole point, is you are at the beginning of this big wave of adoption. And I've said this a lot on this channel, and this is what gets people confused, is when you're using a lot of these blockchain applications, some of them do feel like toys. They feel like they don't make sense. Like, why would anybody want to use this in the first place? Well, that's because they're the first iterations of these things that are getting improved upon over time. And basically, when you're trying to get out there and spot trends, can you see something that is basically has qualities that don't exist somewhere else, that provide a huge amount of benefits, that are novel, and you see are actually viral and sticky? And those are really the important parts. The fact that they aren't perfect, that they do have friction for other people to overcome to actually use them, and something can be worked out over time. But the real opportunity is in those just fundamental characteristics that give it long-term adoption potential. Let's notably see that with metaverse. We see that with blockchain-based social networks, social tokens, and DAOs. Some of the same trends that we've been talking about a lot in this channel recently. And I thought that was a really great tweet thread. Sort of validate some of the ideas that we've been talking about, but also kind of give you a new perspective on them. So let me know what y'all think down in the comment section below. Are there any particular trends that you're excited about? Somebody says we're still so early, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Somebody says it's obvious that they're going digital currency will be overseeing any kind of paper currency. Yeah, totally. So speaking of NFTs, we looked at some quick statistics on OpenSea inside of that thread, but I want to pull this up so that you can see and quantify really what's going on with NFTs, all right? Because, the NFT boom is still here. We could be reaching some sort of peak in the short term for that, right? But this doesn't change the fact that NFT sales are absolutely exploding, and probably the primary beneficiary of this is the OpenSea marketplace. This is the biggest place where NFTs are traded. So, like, if you, want to sell an NFT to somebody else, it's sort of like the Craigslist or eBay of NFTs, all right? So OpenSea's trade volumes have jumped like crazy since the start of the month, and actually, let's see here, did over $1.17 billion over the last 30 days at the time of publishing this article, which I think was just a couple days ago. So, yeah, 369,000 Ether. It's pretty insane. You can actually see the growth here compared to other platforms like OpenSea, Super Rare, Nifty Gateway Foundation. I don't even know how you pronounce that, and then some others. You can watch the curve go up here, and then this massive spike, and OpenSea is just absolutely dominating. So that trend alone tells you that the NFT boom is still here. And I put this tweet out on my Twitter the other day, and I think it's pretty relevant here, which is basically, something that to take note of. While I'm super fascinated with DeFi, and I think it's a major use case long term, it was one of the first sort of real aha moments for me about why blockchain was super important long term in a very concrete way. Like, hey, here's the specific technology, and here's exactly how it can get adopted. take note, most IRL stands for in real life. Most in real life people ask me about NFTs, not DeFi. So basically, whenever I talk to people, outside of the crypto community who I just personally know, and blockchains may be somewhat on their radar, most of them are asking me about NFTs, not decentralized finance. And I think this makes sense because basically, in a lot of ways, DeFi is a little more abstract. NFTs are more concrete. You kind of get it. You can see it. It's a picture. Now, there's always that controversy that comes up. Well, why can't I just right-click save? You know what I mean? So that's always an interesting conversation starter for sure. But that's the thing to really take note of here, because people talk about NFTs being basically something that can bring a lot more people into blockchain who aren't necessarily interested in finance, and I think that's consistent with that assumption. So we do see, speaking of DeFi though, on top of Ethereum, we do have 1inch exchange DEX aggregator moving, let's see here, moving into optimism, okay? So what is this and why is it important? Let's just pull up the tweet thread here. So after gathering all powers from Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, the 1inch mascot directed its gaze to the edge of the DeFi world. So 1inch network expands to optimistic Ethereum. Okay, so basically you can see how you can get started on that. So what is this and why is it important? So 1inch is a DEX aggregator. So basically, if you want to go trade a token on Ethereum network powered by smart contracts in a decentralized way. There's lots of different decentralized exchanges out there. You can do this. You go to Uniswap. You can go to, you go to 0x's DEX. You can go to Sushi Swap. Lots of places. And, you could try to find the best price, or you could just trade on 1inch, and whenever you make the trade, it'll actually split it up across the exchanges to find you the best price. Okay. So 1inch is expanded to optimism. All right. I've been talking about this, more and more teams jumping on board with these layer 2 scaling solutions to make Ethereum faster and cheaper to use. I think DEX trading is one of the most important use cases for this, because it's one of the biggest use cases on top of Ethereum right now in DeFi for sure. So because a lot of people have been priced out of DEX trades, they've moved over to other chains like Binance Smart Chain. They moved over to Polygon, and as layer 2s roll out and get adoption, we need liquidity on those particular networks. And we're starting to see the migration to that. And I'm still holding by my prediction where I think we're going to see wide layer 2 adoption by the end of this year, and I think we're starting to see that really ramp up. All right, so let's see, we got questions in the chat. So what do I think about the social tokens? It's a good question in the chat. Let's circle back to that question here in a minute. All right. And speaking of, digital currencies and DeFi, we did have a statement yesterday from Powell talking about digital money becoming more and more important. Okay, so I think we're seeing this play out. I think a lot of people think that central bank digital currencies are inevitable. There's lots of mixed opinions on these, that they're like an anti-crypto because they're centralized. There's a lot of question marks about how people will actually implement a central bank digital currency. There's thoughts that basically a central bank digital currency will use the private sector to actually launch upon. When I say private sector, I mean just not a government blockchain, but actually a public blockchain. And there's other people say no, they're just going to create their own Fed coin and silo the whole thing. So we'll have to wait and see. I lean more in the camp that I do think that central bank digital currencies are a bit of an inevitability, or somewhat inevitable. That's a better way of saying that. But there's a real question mark on how they're actually going to roll out. So I know there's a lot of controversy, like I said a minute ago, about whether this is good for crypto, whether it's bad for crypto. If it is just like a centralized coin, it's not really in the ethos of crypto at all. But some people think that that's still okay for crypto because it gives it legitimacy and it allows it to bridge over in that crypto ecosystem. I mean, even if that does happen at the end of the day, the biggest concern for me is, are people still allowed to use regular crypto? And I think they will. So let's go ahead and check on the prices here. All right, so let's check on the Bitcoin price. We'll just look at the Coinbase feed here. All right, so Bitcoin is struggling to hold its long-term moving average at 200 days here. I'm not too worried about this, honestly. We'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens. I mean, this is not like a magic line in the sand and that it like has to perfectly hold this. I mean, we see it in the past, like kind of dancing around it, crossing around it. I mean, I've said this over and over again that, these long-term moving averages are somewhat important in the sense of like, I'd like to see us get above them and hold resistance, use them as resistance and actually bounce off these lines before we're super, super, super bullish. But big picture, I don't think it's a huge deal. We'll just have to wait and see before we get, too confident here. Look at the Ether price. So Ether, we're currently trading at, let's see, $3,066. People are getting a little freaked out the past couple of days just because we've seen some consolidation around here. But that's kind of how I viewed it, is consolidation, because I mean, we've been in a straight up line for the past, month basically without a significant correction. It's really only a matter of time. So let's actually check on ETH burn. So the London hard fork happened, I guess it's just about a week ago, right? The days start to run together in my head here. So since then, we've had 60,000 ETH burned, all right, whenever new transactions have been created. So we can actually pull up the calculator here, do a little math. 60,645 times, what's the current Ether price? About $3,000. Just do rough math. All right, so let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, $181 million. Not too bad. So let's see if we have any deflationary blocks. So no deflationary blocks that I see. Actually looks like pretty low utilization on these latest blocks. Probably no NFT drops, no crazy activity happening, no crazy trades. Again, we have to, we basically have to get above about 2 ETH per block in order to see deflationary blocks, but currently we're burning about 3.22 ETH per minute, or I guess about $10,000 a minute. It's pretty crazy. So as always, this ETH will not be totally deflationary until we go to, the merge happens on proof of stake. You can actually see, you can see the projected dates here where we kind of meet that deflationary peak. You can actually simulate the merge. Looks like they've updated the website with some new features. Okay, so if you simulate the merge, you can see that ETH would be minus 1.1% deflationary. So the reason this merge simulator works is basically it's talking about the ETH issuance dropping, because right now ETH is about 4% inflationary without EIP 1559. So you add EIP 1559 onto it at the current rate, it reduces that inflation a little bit. But when we go to the merge, basically when proof of stake gets turned on, the issuance drops greatly. Like the amount of ETH that's created by the blockchain drops greatly to about 0.5%. All right, so if you go ahead and add that issuance in there, then that's when ETH is going to be deflationary at minus 1.1%. Inflation per year, or deflating at a rate of 1.1%. Now that rate will likely change because the issuance is a fixed amount. It's not a percentage. So the percent change in terms of the supply will fluctuate based on network activity and also the amount of ETH that exists, because that number is going to change, it's going to reduce. So you got any questions here in the chat? Somebody says if you're going to play the market, you have to play the market in front of you. You have to buy the dip and sell the rip. That's right. That is consistent with the adage that you have to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. It's just really hard to predict exactly where those moves are going to happen. Somebody said, should we be donating the ETH burned to grants and donations? That's a good question. I don't think so, because really the ETH burning is about sort of people who hold ETH. It's a value to them. So your ETH becomes more valuable if you hold it when the network gets used. Because if we just gave it to organizations then or grants, then you're not really accomplishing that. Like you're not erasing money from the supply. You'd be keeping the supply about the same, or you'd be creating some sort of new money. Somebody says, since ETH has grown over 30% in the past month, isn't it fair to expect a major retrace in September? Not necessarily, because we're still down from our previous all-time high. It very well could, but I don't think it has to. So Mike says, I feel like I've been here before, uptrend, but this green uptrend is new. Started paying attention to crypto in the spring. Where do you see ETH going from here through end of year? So yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't try to predict the short-term moves, too much. If I were to look at it, I would basically say, whenever we had this massive blow up, right, it just, something felt wrong to me in the sense of like the entire sort of party being over early, so to speak. I did feel like we were going up pretty fast towards the beginning of the year that didn't look like it was sustainable, okay? But basically, after we had this massive blow up, it felt too early for like, an overall market cycle to just be done. And when I say that, I mean enter into some sort of multi-year bear trend like we saw in 2018, right, after the 2017 bubble. So, the question this person's asking me is like, hey, what do I think is going to happen at the end of the year? Well, let's just rule out some things because, it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen. But what I don't think is going to happen is that this is, a bull trap and that we're just going to kind of trend down and bleed out through the rest of the year and into like the next year. I really just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think that, I think that this kind of upward trend is still in play. Okay. I don't know exactly where it would be towards the end of the year. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy here and that, guaranteed you're going to be in profit by X date. But I still think our uptrend is in play and will likely continue on into 2022. So what are some of the reasons I think this? Basically, I still think that institutions are taking opportunities to buy, especially below all-time highs. Adoption, probably the biggest reason, right? We didn't have this type of adoption in 2018, 2019. Can crypto go into some sort of sustained bear market again? I think it can, but I don't think we've reached the euphoric levels that would warrant that relative to the fundamentals that are going on right now. That's another reason. We got the merge coming up for Ether for sure. I think is a massive catalyst for all this type of stuff. The EIP 1559 upgrade happened successfully. There's still just too much going on, in my opinion, and too much interest because nobody who's really smart and is in this for the long term is looking at crypto and saying, well, that was all just hype. All right, see ya. Come back when you actually think that's impressive. I mean, that's kind of how it felt in 2017, 2018 when like we had ICOs, we had all these empty promises. We weren't really sure what we were going to do with, blockchain technology for sure. Like we didn't have concrete apps with use cases and real users. We had the beginning of it, but not as nearly as wide as we have now. So basically, nobody who's in this for the long game is thinking, well, crypto is still kind of this idea that's mostly hype. It's like, no, we've really got a lot going on here. So that's why I think we're not going, long-term bear market. Some of it was my portfolio allocation. In terms of percentage, I'm not totally sure off the top of my head. I would say probably 85% Ether. Maybe like 10% Bitcoin and about 5% DeFi projects like Aave and Synthetics. Those are all long-term holds. I do some short-term trading, not in a really material way. I don't really talk about it too much. So, are there many blockchain jobs other than developer? So that's a great question. See, there's lots of blockchain jobs out there. Pretty much any crypto company is going to have the same roles that most traditional tech companies were tech startups. So if you work in marketing, they need that in crypto. If you work in business to business sales, they need that in crypto. If you work in business to consumer sales, they need that in crypto. Project management, any C-level position, like all that stuff is going to exist in crypto. Assistant jobs. I mean, anything you can think of. So let's see here. So this is one day will be a full stack developer. Well, hey, you can start today. Let's see here. Somebody says, have I worked on a project where a native iOS Android app was directly interacting with the smart contract? Yes. I don't know if there's another question behind that, but the answer is yes. Built it in React Native. We use Web3.js. There are some tricks to getting it to work properly, but yeah, we did it. So it says, will I provide the full code in the Flash Loan class? Yes. Somebody says, does it connect directly to MetaMask? I think they're asking about the iOS app. So we built basically a non-custodial wallet where they basically controlled their own private key. All right, everybody, that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so the more people can learn about blockchain. If you're as fast at this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? Well, you go to my YouTube homepage. You find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to the next step, or hey, Maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely. Actually, become a blockchain master step by step, start to finish, over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. Again, I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.